I found that out on The Biggest Loser. I've lived life for a decade rolling around with guys that are just, let's get after it. And then I'm standing on set of a TV show with people where their lives have utterly fallen apart and they feel so compelled to put themselves on a national TV show to try and live a life that's different to what they're currently living. And when I go home at the end of the day, are they going to do the things that are necessary for themselves? So when it comes to weighing, that they don't fall below the yellow line, because if they fall below the yellow line, their fate isn't in their hands any longer. It comes down to a vote.
This is Steve Commando Willis. He competed on Survivor, and for 9 years, he was the reason a nation was terrified of skipping leg day. But before any of that, the military had already taught him something most people never learn.
Like, I remember having to roll our socks a certain way and put a smiley face in them and sit them in the cupboard and fold your singlets and your shirt and your underwear, and they would measure those things with a ruler, because it's all about responsibility and being accountable for your stuff. And if you can't do that with your belongings, how the hell would you ever put a weapon system into someone's hand and ask them to be responsible with it?
In this episode, you'll learn how to become a high agency person, take ownership of your life, and come out the other side unrecognizable.
I used to make people's life hell. I used to do this mission. I'd have to carry all this equipment in, and then we get to a certain point, and then I'd say, all right, if you're not back within an hour, every minute on the minute until we get back, there's 5 burpees. Every minute on the minute for an hour and 10, they did 5 burpees. It took them that long to get back with all the equipment.
Was it a hard transition to go from the army to Biggest Loser? Did you lose a bit of identity?
It was more so, if I ever did Survivor again, I'd steal all the food and make a fire somewhere in the bush and just eat it for myself. And just, you'd mess with people.
Yeah. We just wrapped up filming with Commando Steve from The Biggest Loser, and I'm going to tell you the story about how that came together, because it's quite interesting. As a buyer's agent, I had cold called him one day about him buying property, looking at buying an investment or a house or something of that nature. I can't remember the specifics, but we were on the phone for maybe 10-15 minutes, and at the end of the call, he gave me his email, and his email address said like Commando Steve. I was like, hang on a second, you're the guy from The Biggest Loser? And he's like, yeah, I am. At the end of the call, he ended up pitching to me saying, look, I've got a gym out in Rouse Hill, CrossFit, and I was hooked. I was like, look, I'm actually looking for a CrossFit gym myself. I ended up being a member there for a couple of years until we moved up to the GC. Anyways, everybody's seen The Biggest Loser and knows about it. It's like, why not deep dive and get inside the mind of Steve Willis, aka the Commando. And his partner Harika came on and joined us too. So hope you like this one. Steve Willis, aka the Commando Steve. Mate, welcome to the Both Sides podcast.
Oh, no, it's great to be on it, Dan.
Appreciate it. Mate, we all know you from things like The Biggest Loser. I know certainly for myself as a young man growing up, I'd watch you on TV and think, fuck, this guy's like the real life superhero, like the Superman you'd watch growing up. And then, you are known for things like the TV show Survivor, being in the army, the special forces, and then also the gym and wellness and fitness. So, mate, today I'd love to unpack the story of who is Steve Willis from kind of where you were born to now. And I know you just turned 50 years old, so mate, happy birthday.
Thanks, man.
So mate, thanks for coming on the show. And could you just give us, mate, a bit of a background in terms of where you started? I did some research that says you were born in Brisbane, mate.
Yes, I was born in Brisbane in 1976. I think that's
1976.
Fairly common knowledge. But my mum's from the Barbados in the West Indies, and she found herself out here in Australia. I'm the eldest of four. So there's myself, and then I've got 3 younger brothers. I grew up in that kind of Redcliffe area until I think it was about year 10, and then my parents decided to move up towards, well, for most people they would know Hervey Bay, so that's probably the best reference on a map, still in the Wide Bay area. And finished year 11 and 12 at Maryborough High, and then I joined the army.
What made you join the army? What was was there anything family life growing up that triggered that?
I think I was always into either wanting to be a police officer or fireys or a fireman or the army. Those things kind of interested me. And funny, just to bring one of my sons in, my youngest son, if I was to use him as a reference and just the things that he's into, that was me as a youngster. So I can kind of see that pathway now looking back, but obviously when you're young it's not so obvious. But I actually joined the army to go to engineers, and then through engineers do a trade as a chippy.
Oh, really?
To get my builder's
Yeah.
license or the like. But that was short-lived. At Kapooka, so Wagga Wagga, the school of the recruit training centre. I did reasonably well there, and a lot of the directive staff that we had in our platoon were infantry, and they're like, "There's no point, being in the army unless you go to infantry because you can do any other job in the army in Civic Street," and some of the colourful words that they kind of would say in their sentences. But I was like, all right, if that's a man's role in the army and that's like the hardest job you can do, I'm going to give it a crack. So I found myself at the School of Infantry, which is at Singleton, and then from there I was posted into a unit at Holsworthy.
Yep.
And kind of the rest is history in that sense. But that essentially is what took me from living in Queensland to living in New South Wales. So I was 18 going on 19 when I joined the army.
18 going on 19.
Yeah.
And was it something, it sounds like it was something you more fell into rather than from a young age aspired to really get into?
Yeah, and that's right. Like the intention was to join and in school, to rewind a bit more, we call it Shop A, Shop B, and with the woodwork side of things, that was something I was really good at. With my hands and making things, and I enjoyed the craft of that. I didn't so much enjoy the other subjects
Pen and
in
paper.
school. Pen and paper. That's probably the best way to put it. So I thought that would be, the progression for me. But then rubbing shoulders with, guys that are older than you, and they're kind of, in their eyes, the epitome of a man, in the military is to be an infantry. Well, that's what I was going to do. You're young, you feel like you need to, you prove yourself, put your stamp on the world. So, and when you're rolling in those circles, well, in my eyes, what else are you going to do?
Yeah. So you mean that you may as well go for the top.
Yep.
And so does that then, how did that process unfold to then becoming like Commando Steve and things like the Special Forces?
Well, you want the long story or the short story?
Give me the
So in the military or the army, the unit I was posted in was 4RR, so 4th Battalion Royal Australian Regiment. And the 2nd 4th Battalion, which was in Townsville, was disbanded. They left 2RR in Townsville and they brought 4RR to Sydney. So they needed reinforcements to bolster and build that unit. And whilst we were on deployment in Malaysia in 1996, High Command let us know that 4RR was going to be retasked to a commando capability, now a full-time commando capability. There was already the reserve units, but they wanted a full-time capability within the Australian military. And on return after the Christmas holidays, anyone that wanted to stay in the unit and have a crack at being a commando would have to undertake selection. So they gave guys an option to take a posting out who weren't really interested in special forces, or they may have been, scared of jumping out of planes because that's part of the role, or amphibious operations. And I just wanted to be with my mates. I was all, I'll give it a red hot crack, and if all else fails, go from there. So I think I was, it would have been 20 when I
20.
undertook that.
Were you already at that age quite into your training and discipline and structure?
And I think, like I was before the military. With my stepdad growing up, he was very disciplined. He lived a bit of a fast life, with motorcycles and the like. And I don't think he wanted us to go down the same path as him. So he was really hard on us. And I think I just had that in me to start with, a bit, out there on the spectrum, and maybe a little OCD in that sense with just how I was meticulous with things and my belongings. And then that just kind of fell into place in the military. I didn't struggle with a lot of that type of stuff. The discipline side of things was just quite an easy fit. But it was more the structure and that high command and, being told what to do, because a lot of us, we can be a bit anti-authority, and we suck it up for a period of time, and then we have our little meltdown and the consequences of that. But yeah, it was always there, that discipline and all the like. And
how would you define discipline?
How would I define discipline? It's doing what's necessary regardless, whether you like it or not. And it's a lot of the time we allow the emotion or the feeling to take hold, and we leave it for another day, or that offset or that delay. And I think a lot of the way people approach it too is it's kind of all or nothing, when it's not. Like doing a little bit of something that's going to step you in the right direction, like anything, builds with time. It creates momentum. And if you looked at it in the sense of like a circle, and you're moving, well, let's say you're moving towards 6 o'clock and you want to be going at 12, people think in their mind that they've just got to flip everything on its head and move at 12. And that's really hard. But if you can gradually, like the degrees on a compass, shift something by 1 degree, over time. I've spoken about it, on other maybe podcasts and even in keynotes and the like. If you were to, from this point, even now where we are at this table, and we shot a bearing, let's say we're going to walk north, and we walk that bearing for 10 kilometres and put a stake in the ground. We come back to this point and change by 1 degree and walk 10 kilometres. We're very close to one another initially, and then the separation over that distance and time is significant. And you may not even be able to see that first point. But it's the patience, isn't it? I think a lot of discipline and the like, and all those other types of things. There's a lot of other requirements or things that you need to embrace with it, and that's being patient. And not, chopping and changing, waiting for things to take hold and to see the fruits of your labour in that manner. And lessons back to the military with, responsibility. I say to people, eventually get to a point in the infantry or special forces where, you look the bit, you're this operator, you're tooled up, you got a pistol, you got your long arm, you got magazines, you got shotgun rounds, you got grenades, you got all these
big biceps
things, you're just tooled up.
Yeah.
But to get there, it's not straight away. They're not just going to give you all of that gear, because you need to earn it, and you need to show that you can be responsible for what may seem the most insignificant of things. Like I remember having to roll our socks a certain way and put a smiley face in them and sit them in the cupboard and fold your singlets, and your shirts and your underwear, and they would measure those things with a ruler. I don't know if they do that to this
Really?
day. Yeah, because it's all about responsibility and being accountable for your stuff. And if you can't do that with your belongings, how the hell would you ever put a weapon system into someone's hand and ask them to be responsible with it? It makes sense when you talk about it in that manner, and that's, fast forward to this day, those life's lessons and the like have taken hold even more for me, 30 years down the track. And there's a lot of gratitude for it. There's a lot of there's like solace in it, and you don't really care what's going on out there, because that's yours to focus on. I'll come into this gym and make sure that the weights are in their pairs, and the like, the dumbbells are stacked, because it's pride in what it is that you do.
Kind of gives you purpose.
Exactly.
In that present moment.
Mm-hmm. And it's significance and meaning. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with too, because
100%. I can even speak from experience. When you're younger too, these terms like discipline, routine, structure, having purpose with what you own, and taking care of it, you don't appreciate. Yeah, you get lost, and you're not really seeing. Kind of like when you're at school and you're learning a subject, you're like, what's this gonna lead to? You don't really see how these.
Yeah, like what's the point of maths?
Yeah,
like I learn all these complex, equations and all this other type of stuff. When am I ever going to use that? And a lot of the time you because you're hearing others say, oh, you'll never use that in like. But I'm probably better at math now than I was when I was was younger, and there's a necessity for it. So imagine what it would be like if not ever being taught those things, and being grateful for it. But then there's technology, isn't there, that really aids us as well. But you're right to those points. You know, the significance and the meaning and the depth and understanding, like the weight behind things. Like you can say a certain word like discipline to people who are disciplined. Like it can be hard to articulate, but they are disciplined. You know, they don't need to say it. They embody it. Yeah. And you talk about other things like purpose and meaning and the like, and it's the weight of a life lived that brings the true meaning to those words.
It's almost like the more you can not sacrifice, but you kind of give intention and focus to something, and you're saying no to other things. What you're putting your attention to, you're getting more purpose towards it and energy towards, and you're making it more sacred for yourself. But what I'd like to understand, because it's something that I'm juggling with always, is like the balance between being present and embodying things like discipline versus having clear goals and targets that you set. And it's like, okay, am I being disciplined for the sake of being disciplined? Am I being disciplined to achieve a goal? Is that the right goal? Like, who set the goal? Is it me that set the goal, or I've been told by society to set the... So it's all these things that start to like, do you know what I'm saying?
Weigh on you, and a question that arises for you, and you start to answer that question, like, hang on a second, like, I'm so far from that question now because 100 other questions have arisen. I've been thinking lately, like, and I've thought for many years, and you hear it in a lot of discussions, is like, what's the meaning of life? And I don't think there is any meaning as such. It's the meaning that you bring. Like, life is indifferent in that it's not that it cares or doesn't care. It just is. Like, there's an existence. All right, we acknowledge that there's an existence. Okay, what meaning do we bring to that? What do we want that to be? And for a lot of people, you said about me before, it's like you fell into it, and it was like the wind was blowing in a certain direction and you just went with it, and you ended up at that point. And I think a lot of us, we find ourselves at that place. And I think those that are older, sometimes if you were to put, again, a stake in the ground and look back, it's like, how did I get here? And then you start to backtrack and you consider all of those things, and then the wish, the what ifs, if I'd done this, if I'd done that, maybe I would be in a different place. And that's all good and well, and you are where you are. And I think when you have that awareness and that realization, you can make some real positive changes to your life, and with consistency, affect that. But for those that are younger and recognizing those things, you definitely have a clearer pathway plan and execution on your goals if that's what you want. What advice, or how do you navigate life now for yourself, Steve? Like, are you saying, this is the goalpost I want to get to, and you figure out how to get there? Or are you kind of being present with where the wind's naturally blowing and leaning in? Like, how are you navigating and using things like discipline, consistency along the way? Well, I think, being a bit older, and that it's considerations too of so many other factors, like your partner, the kids, even for us, like, living in a particular area and maybe you want to live in another area, what are the considerations to making that happen? And also with all of those considerations, you can't just click your fingers and make a change. Like, you could, but at the cost of what? And then seeing small separation. You want the small. Yeah, but it's the small wins too, and each day. And I think trying to manage your day and achieving things that you set out to achieve, and ticking those boxes. But a lot of the time, it's not just you in the game, and that's business. That's relationships with others, and that consideration. And then what do they want out of it as well? Whether that's kind of spoken or not as such. And it guides you in that manner. And I think your ability to communicate plays a big role, and communicate not just in articulate what it is that you want or don't want, but also hear, like listen. Like, are you truly hearing, what others are saying, or what's going on in the environment that you're in? I liken it to a workout here in the gym, and it's up on the board, and we laugh about it all the time. It's in writing that everyone can read, and that can be interpreted in so many different ways. Sometimes you're left scratching your head, going, "How did someone read that and get to that conclusion?"
Yeah.
But they do. And is that right or wrong? But it stops you for a moment to think, hang on a second, the way in which I interpret that, because for me, a lot of the time I'm writing those workouts, I know it through and through. And then you're like, hang on a second, someone go, oh, actually I can see that pathway of maybe thinking or how they got there. And it allows you to be a little bit more, because it can be very frustrating.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like, how the hell? But at the same time, you put a bit of space between it, within yourself and for that person, give them a bit of grace in that manner, because they're learning as well. And again, we live and breathe this, every day. It's but maybe an hour, 4 times a week in a person's day. So their depth, degree, and understanding is nothing like ours in that manner. And then I could go into your industry and the like, and I'd be so out of my depth. I think there's a lot of things that are transferable, but there's a lot of skills too, and understanding, and the awareness, and picking up on those nuances that it's time, it's life, it's making shitty decisions, and bearing the consequences for that. And a lot of the time, they're the greatest teachers, aren't they? They're not the wins.
Yeah, often you learn the most through your failures, don't you? All the lessons along the way from not winning. So how, knowing what you know now at 50, having been through what you've been through, how are you figuring out, or not even necessarily the word figuring out, what compass are you using to guide your life? Are you planning goals? Are you letting life naturally, like, how are you, because
it's realizing that life is well, this life, and if you see it as that, it's impermanent. Like, it's not going to last forever, and to make the most of it. And I used to think I was making the most of it, and I was giving it a red hot crack, and like I was saying, that video of doing that lift, and realizing, damn, that was 10 years ago, and I was capable of doing that. Yes, I can still do it to some degree now. But, am I living my life to the best of my ability, now, each and every day? A great one that has resonated with me lately is look after the seconds and the minutes, and the days and the weeks will take care of themselves.
I like that. The seconds and the minutes,
because people are constantly projecting. It's like a big workout. Like yesterday's workout was 30 rounds for time. What does everyone keep thinking about? 30. Harika would say, just it's 5 wall balls, it's 3 handstand push-ups, it's 1 power clean, do a round, reset the typewriter, do another round, there's 2, all right, let's work towards the next 2, and before you know it, you've done 10, you're a third of the way. But isn't that anything? It's you talk to someone who climbs Everest or loves climbing mountains and all that type of stuff, if they focused on the top all the time, they'd never get there.
We often get this. I know from when I was younger, you get distracted by thinking too far forward rather than being where you are, doing that well to a high standard.
Yeah, and that's something that I've learned from Harika over these past few years, and the ups and downs of things, and COVID and all that other type of stuff. And
just so everyone knows, sorry to interrupt, Harika's your now partner.
Yep. So we've been together since 2020, the end of 2019, 2020, and we've got this gym together. And we've got a great community, but like anything, you got to lead from the front, and it takes work. And I thought I was Mr. Consistency with things and the like, and discipline, but I think we've kind of met our match in that space. Whereas and there's got to be a love and a desire to want to do certain things too. And for her, I can only speak from my observations about her in that manner, is kind of getting into this methodology and kind of understanding it more and enjoying it, but just doing it so consistently that that it has such a profound effect on your life. And I've for what we're talking about here pretty much is CrossFit, and I got into CrossFit in 2004, so that was 22 years ago. And I was doing it for a long time. I've taught CrossFit. It's a methodology that I employed, when I was leaving the military, and I got into training for myself because there was a like-mindedness and something similar to my days in the military, which I think keep you grounded to a certain degree and moving in a similar path. On the Biggest Loser, owned a CrossFit affiliate, had an online program, Get Commando Fit, for a number of years that employed the CrossFit methodology. It's been near and dear to me for many years, and introducing it to people and showing them the ropes and then watching them flourish and kind of have their own journey it's amazing. And doing that with someone who's very close to you in that manner is rewarding as well, because you feed off each other. And there's been many times with business and the like, and the behind the scenes stuff where I've just felt like I just don't want to go to the gym today and train and the like, and then she'll be in my ear like, you got to train, you got to do this. And without that, or having that moral support, that person to help give you a swift kick in the bum and point you in that direction, where would you be? Don't know. But we're here.
And has that kind of push when you haven't wanted to, what results has that yielded for your life? In other words, what's the point?
What's the point? What else would there be? Back to what's the purpose or the meaning or the definition of life? You've got to make that for yourself. Yeah. And for many years I got very much into the meditation side of things, philosophy, meditation side of things, and just learning to be able to sit quietly and just observe, observe self, observe, what's going on in the environment that you're in. But also recognize that can almost be a door to complacency.
It can be.
Yeah. And you let other things, you just let it pass you by. But is that a problem? Maybe so, maybe not. And for some, that's how they wish to live their life. But I think when I've lived a life that you're very hyperactive, like go, like you'll pick at the fingers, you'll pick at the nails, like it's like you got ants in your pants. You can't sit still, and learning to be able to sit still and be calm is very. I'll use the word nourishing, because for a lot of people, they need to do, say, that physical activity, that workout, to wear themselves out for a moment in time, to just participate in life. Whereas to be able to do that and scratch that itch, but also be able to just sit and be still and be okay with it and allow that to flow over you, to be able to participate in life. You can pick and choose. And to come in and out of those, in your daily activity, I think is, and the awareness of those things is a gift. And it's rewarding. And I think that's, when we use the word success and all those other things, what's the measuring stick for all of those? I think for me, whether you've got all of that other stuff, you, at the end of the day, you've got to live with you, and you've got to be comfortable with you. And if there's that constant need to achieve and that desire to get after it, maybe there's something else that's missing. Is there an inability to just take it all in and be appreciative of it and the like? And then there's, again, we said there's others that are the other way, who point the finger at, look at all these people, they're going like they can't sit still. Is that wrong? I don't think so.
It's kind of like finding your sweet spot between being a monk and a commando, and jumping out of planes, lifting 100,000 kilos.
Yeah, and I think doing both of those. If I look back on life, I was fortunate enough with the military side of things to get to that tier 1, 1%er kind of position, but not. How do I say this? Not be so full of myself in a manner that I don't use that to then aid or help others. And I found that out on The Biggest Loser. Like, I was like, wow, I've lived life for, a decade, every day rolling around with guys that are just like, they're so just, let's get after it. And then I'm standing on set of a TV show with people where their lives have utterly fallen apart, and they feel so compelled to put themselves on a national TV show to try and live a life that's different to what they're currently living, and like how they think or others should or are living. And it's when you just...
Must have been a big contrast.
Very big contrast. But again, you've got a lot of skills in your and tools in your toolkit that you can employ and pass on, and teach and encourage others to walk that path for themselves. And that's probably the thing that I used to consider the most with the contestants or the people that were in my team on The Biggest Loser was, all right, when I go home at the end of the day, are they going to do the things that are necessary for themselves, so when it comes to weigh-in that they don't fall below the yellow line? Because if they fall below the yellow line, their fate isn't in their hands any longer. It comes down to a vote. And how many of us, how many people live their lives like that? Like they're waiting, they're putting off, they're doing, and then all of a sudden, decisions are made outside of their ability, and they have no say. And where you can do things that, to the best of your ability, at least if it doesn't turn out the way that you may have wanted it to, you can put your hand on your heart and say, well, gave it a red hot crack.
Man, it's funny you say that. The first thing that came to mind hearing you speak that was hope is not a strategy, and an antidote to hope is what gets measured gets done, and you can then have the control in your power to tweak things and change your circumstances rather than hoping that you lose the 5 kilos and stepping on the scales. So it's interesting because it was interesting to hear you say that, because that's the first thing that came to mind. Hope's not a strategy. But as humans, we can be strategic, and we can put numbers on a board and stick to a plan, and it may not get us the exact result, but then we get an outcome and we can then tweak the plan moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And you saying that as well, it got me thinking. I did a talk a little while ago, and I was looking at what are action points in a process that people can kind of follow to achieve a certain or desired outcomes. And number one's awareness. Awareness of themselves and the environment, what it is that they're doing, and then through that practice or employing the practice and the process, you gain competency. So that action piece, and then through competency comes confidence. A lot of what goes on nowadays, and especially in the social media environment and the perception of things, there's a false confidence, because and you hear about it, because what people portray and put up seems like they've got this perfect life and it's all squared away, and they're very confident. But as soon as real life is playing out, those that put on this perception of confidence, it's a thin veil. And where's the level of competence behind that? And it takes hold every day. And I used to find that with I used to run a lot of camps as well, and you'd get people on the camps, and you'd get, I think back to army days as well, you got those trying to prove themselves, and they're trying to lead from the front, and they're trying to do as many push-ups as they can, and you got the ones who are very softly spoken, and they're a little unsure of themselves, and they're just doing the best they can. They're like the grey man in the middle, and they're giving it their best. And as things start to draw out and more time passes and people are tired, they're hungry and the like, what starts to happen is those who were trying to lead from the front start to fall by the way. And that consistency of effort for that person, or those people that are kind of in that grey area that are often overlooked, they rise to the top. And they're the ones encouraging others to flip that 300 kilo tire, to pick up those kettlebells or those sandbags and walk that next 100 meters, you know. And I used to make people's life hell, and I used to do this this mission at the end of the camps, like it all involved doing workouts, but it was like a bit of a FMP, full mission profile, and I'd give them orders and do all this other type of stuff, and they'd have to carry all this equipment in, and then they'd have to do the carry, and from a certain point they weren't even allowed to talk to each other, or there'd be penalties of burpees, and they'd have to do this like 40-minute workout, and then they got the down pilot, which was the big heavy tire, and then they'd have to drag it back, and then we get to a certain point, and then I'd say, all right, if you're not back within an hour, every minute on the minute until we get back, there's 5 burpees. And man, I remember once, I think it was about an hour and 10. Every minute on the minute for an hour and 10, they did 5 burpees. It took them that long to get back with all the equipment.
Wow.
And the the emotion of people, like the tears and the just that expression of emotion through their physical being, and just so exhausted, but at the same time so euphoric in. I did that.
They've got themselves to a level.
Yeah, and you don't do it to like punish people as such, but it's the collective. It's not just the individual, and that recognition that rope, that kettlebell, that sandbag, and the like, it's not going to move itself. And we have a job, and we need to come together as a team and to affect that and make that happen. And I'd be watching my watch it go off, and I'd say burpees. I'd just scream it out, and you see people have just picked up some kettlebells, and they're almost like a statue. They're just standing there. They're trying to contemplate, and it's like they just want to throw their hands in the air and give up. Yeah. And then soon enough, it clicks for them, and they just they just get into this state of mind. As soon as they hear it, they just let everything go. They get them done, and they just keep moving. They keep moving. There isn't resistance. And I think that's what a lot of us bring to our everyday and to just things that we're doing in life, is a lot of resistance, and what is that resistance? Again, a lot of it's ourselves. It's our past, experiences, and the way in which we've allowed ourselves to be conditioned and conditioned ourselves. And, how do I manage that resistance that I'm putting up for myself so that I can do things and not use up energy unnecessarily, because that's what happens too. Yeah.
That's one thing I'm learning about now as I get older, is sustainability with what you do. Like, not just trying to, when you come with resistance, push too hard and then you burn out for the next set, and then not pushing enough where you're leaving short. It's like that sweet spot of doing things consistent over a long period of time sustainably.
Yeah.
What did you learn in the army about resilience and how to navigate it? And
well, I don't think it was anything that was ever really spoken about. And, being young, it's observations more so than anything, observing others and how they do things. And enduring. And I think there's a certain element of, that action piece and enduring that teaches you a lot. And again, back to the awareness piece, you observe, how you're doing things, how others are doing things, and can you tweak things and improve on that. But, the consideration of factors that make us human and the things that are necessary, like nutrition and food. I think back to, again, my younger years in the army, and we did a lot on very little sleep and little, but if I would say more so poor nutrition, especially when you're living on ration. Well, ration packs and the like.
Oh yeah.
They're just
shit.
You can't. You got to carry your food, and you got to do all of that type of stuff, and that's what they deemed was their best way and method of getting nutrients in, and that's what you got when you're young, and nutrition wasn't kind of where it is nowadays, and us so focused on it. So you just felt that they had your back and they were looking after you in that manner. But you realise looking back that things could have been a little different. But you got to look after yourself in that manner. but yeah, like it's not like we ever sat around and spoke about, you know, toughness as such and what it means to be this or to that. It was this is the role, this is the job description. You know, we need to be able to do this, and how we're going to do that. And you know, physical activity, or PT as we call it, physical training, was a part of every day, where you could fit it in. If you're on deployment or you're doing exercises or on operations, it wasn't something that was overly, you know, pushed upon you, because you were doing most things you were doing were quite physical, you know, period. But yeah, it's not until, you know, I'd say started to do, you know, The Biggest Loser, and you know, people pose these questions to you and ask these things, and you know, these past 10 to 15 years with social media and, you know, it becoming more of a centerpiece that people really they want to understand more about that. I think if people to ask that question, and if people are like, well, what is it that I can do? You got to do hard things, and and that's the action piece. I think more often than not, the mind, especially nowadays, there's so much information that we're wading through. The mind comprehends and it understands, but do you really?
Yeah, it's like you know about, but you don't actually.
It's like
know.
when you train here, like and you come, you you hear what's being said, blah, blah, and then you go to do it and you're like, wow, what I thought it was to what it is just two different things.
And then you stack another, I'm sure for you've stacked another 20 years on top of doing it the first time, and you can look back and go, wow, that's different again.
Yeah.
Getting more efficient, the repetition.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, I even compare going to uni and then actually being in business. It's like chalk and cheese, and it's easy to get caught in that information overload rather than learning through just doing, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And they're two different things.
Yeah, I remember when I got into, I think I was about 35 or so. You know, so let's go 15 years ago, reading philosophy and the like, and you know, again, there's philosophers up into this current era, but if you talk philosophy, you know, thousands of years ago, and then those that have been around, you know, talking about those that were younger and kind of, they had an appetite for it, but a lot of their understanding of philosophy was from what it is that they'd read or were learning. It wasn't embodied and practiced as such. There wasn't, you know, overlapped or with experience. And a lot of the time, you know, what may seem significant and carry meaning or weight for you, and it appeases the mind, doesn't really fit into your life. And, you know, when I think a lot of the things, when you practice it and you understand, like, yeah, this really isn't for me, and you move on. But at least it's a bit of a star to walk towards, or you know, again, a bit of a stake to help you realise or recognise that maybe that's not the direction, or that's something to employ and keep going after. You know, I think I keep saying I think. I look at, you know, my life and even these past few years with, you take COVID and the like, I've done all these things, the army, and, you know, it was great with the TV stuff, and, you know, you have a profile, and then you go back to grassroots. You know, we were looking to make ends meet. We were in a park, you know, and you were at the mercy of the environment. Again, back to that indifference. It was hot, it was cold, it was wet, it was windy. You know, you had to deal with those environmental elements and still execute. That's where toughness and resolve and, you know, discipline and all of those things, you know, truly take hold and carry meaning. Because more often than not nowadays, we're trying to curate or create these perfect environments. Or we think are perfect, yeah, but they create comfort. like, you know, this gym, you can open the doors, you can do all of that, you can let the breeze come through. It gets really hot. Let's put some air conditioners on. You know, we drive our cars to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, I remember as a kid, I was even talking with, you know, Harika's son didn't want to go to school today. It's the last day before the school holidays. And she's like, you're going to school. You've got band and the like before school, you know, and that's a commitment. You're going to do that. And I was thinking to myself, man, you know, he gets to be driven to school, or he gets on the bus. And I used to think, my parents said, you're going to school. But I had to get myself to school. I had to ride my push bike. You know, so the onus and responsibility was on me to get myself there, and I still had to be there, because if I wasn't, my parents would find out, and you know, life's not worth living in that given moment. So it's funny how things have also changed, and it, you know, it's maybe like that for some kids, you know, still, you know, having to you know, make their way around, and, you know, their own two legs or a push bike or the like to get from point A to point B. But that's something that was always from an early age. I wouldn't say encouraged, like expected. Like Dad was off at work, you know, Mum was doing whatever. You know, there's school. It's however many kilometres away. You got a push bike and two perfectly good legs. Off you go.
Do you feel like we've swung too far the other way?
No, I don't think we swung too far the other way. It's just that we need to, you know, the messaging, like, and encourage, you know, kids to be physical, and that's, you know, why we've got the modern expression of humans, and the utilisation of their physical being is in gyms. Like, there isn't that many jobs that are labour intensive. You know, as there used to be. You know, a lot of things are automated, technology's, you know, taken hold. You know, more often than not with business nowadays, most of us, you know, sitting in a chair, you know, we're on a laptop, on our phone, or what have you. And like I was saying, you know, with either ends of that kind of spectrum, recognising, being able to come in and out of that. All right, I've been sitting down for an hour or two. I need to get up.
That awareness,
I need to go for a bit of a walk. You know, just move the body. You know, what's this whole thing? You know, 10,000 steps a day. You know, is that really have any significance or meaning other than, you know, it's something simple? You know, what's 10,000 steps? They say it equates to about 5 kilometres. You know, and they say, you know, the old government standards, if you looked at that, was, you know, try and get at least 3 30-minute, you know, sessions in a week of, you know, cardiovascular activity. Whereas we know that the more you can move, the better, you know, in every instance.
The more you can move, the better.
Always. Like, you know, you hear it saying, like, sitting is the new smoking. Like, it's, you know, just how it impacts, you know, the physical body and being. And we also know that, you know, by doing things that are quite mechanical in the physical sense, it helps to deal with the stresses of things, you know, and perceived stresses too. People can sit at their desk on their computer and all of that stuff, and it's like they're going to be eaten by a lion, because what's going on between their two ears. And when you can be aware of those things and go out and do something physical, it's actually quite liberating and refreshing.
Gets you out of your head a bit, into your body, changes your perspective, you come back
your
fresh.
Feelings, your emotions. Yeah, exactly.
So if I bring it back to, how old were you from 18 to when did you finish the army?
Yeah, so I was late 20s. So I left. So I said I joined at 18, going on 19. Yeah, I was about 29 when I
29, so about good
left,
10 plus years.
Yeah.
And a few deployments in that.
So I didn't go to Afghanistan, or our unit first went into Iraq, and then they were going into Afghanistan. But at the same time, back here in Australia, after September the 11th, because that's around that time, that 2001, 2002, 2003, our unit was the unit I was in was tasked to raise the second counterterrorism capability. So that's what I did for the last few years that I served in that unit or in the military. And yeah, that was a lot of fun, doing that counterterrorism training. And again, probably the most significant, or how would you say the most attribute is awareness. Your ability to assimilate under any environment or circumstances that you found yourself in, be aware of what was going on, because otherwise you became a danger to yourself or to others. And it's to recognise what and make snap decisions, and be intelligent enough to all right, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to be here or I need to be there, and you're not doing that stuff on your own. You're in a team a lot of the time. You're small teams of 5, and you might have 5 teams of 5, working through a building, and in very confined spaces, dark rooms, lots of loud explosions, weapon systems being fired. You're tooled up to no end. You got fire retardant overalls on. You got body armor on. You've got a pistol on that or on your leg. You've got your primary weapon. You've got to employ explosives like snibs on doors or the like, or you got to do manual entry, so that requires a sledgehammer or the like, or you might have to shotgun the hinges off door. And you're constantly just working, but it's that awareness and that observation. And we used to do things again, like I was saying, we create environments to try and express ourselves in the best manner that we can. How we used to train is they would create as much disruption as they could and see how you manage that. See, we don't like that nowadays. But then a lot of the time, if you think of it in a gym environment, like what we do in that kind of CrossFit methodology, that's what that does. It's, a workout. It's you look at this like, oh my God, there's handstand push-ups in there. I hate handstand push-ups. That's how you approach it, or you see the workout and you're like, damn, I love every element, every exercise that's in that today. I'm going for it. Yeah. But how often is it that way? It's only a few percent more often than not. Life's full of those disruptions, and
it is, isn't it?
And managing that.
Yeah, and it's.
Gosh, man, I used to remember they'd tie fishing wire, line and stuff, so you can't see it, and you're tripping over things. They used to call it spider's web. And within the rooms, RFCRs, room floor combat ranges, they can absorb live fire, and within those you could make little rooms and things like that were with doors and the like. So you'd have a room, you go into that, and you like a rabbit warren. Like there's things they block, stack chairs and desks up in doorways, and you have to crawl under things and make entry and do all that. Like constantly just having to just manage and kind of understand your environment and deal with those disruptions. And then you do like a bit of a post-activity report. All right, how did we go here? I did this, we did that. All right, we're going to do it again. Let's work on this. It's like training for anything. It's like, even in business and working on those skills and learning and understanding. But it's the communication, isn't it? Like, what is it that I'm hearing? What is the information I'm taking on? How am I processing that? What is the information that I'm then relaying, through my interpretation of things as well? And some people are much better at that than others. Yeah. I mean, that's the hierarchy then, isn't it, of command, in the military, and those who, it's life as well and business. And, those that know, and they will make way and step aside for those that say have that skill, or that it's just, you can just sense it that it's in them. You let them,
that embody people.
Like you want them to be the leader, and you'll act on what it is that they say. But the leaders that you follow the most are the ones that have that understanding. They'll get in the trenches with you. They won't just dictate and command. Unfortunately, which happens a lot nowadays, where people get to a position in certain roles that if the toilets need cleaning, they won't go near that. But for those that have small business and understand all that, those gritty sides of things, they just make it happen. They just bite their tongue and they just get it done. Yeah,
that kind of difference between a boss and a leader. I was going to ask you. You've spoke a lot about the importance of how awareness has been a key attribute to your growth in the army. I was going to say, what has that, the increased focus of awareness, how has that actually correlated to your life and maybe improved it or given you a tool to help navigate life? And when I was hearing you speak, I was like, maybe awareness it helps you become a better leader. And from being a better leader, you can then go out and serve. But I'd like to ask you your answer to that. What has developing your awareness done for you?
I think it's, it's everything. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because, through awareness of things, you can create a hypervigilance.
Hypervigilance?
Well, you're taking in a lot of information that may be unnecessary. And you're trying to filter through that as well, which can be quite draining, with your energy. But I also think one of the with awareness, the significance of that is the recognition of things that you can let go.
Can let go? That's an interesting answer.
Yeah, like it's at that point in time. So if a hierarchy of things, like and things that needed to be done. All right, this needs to be done before that. You let the other things go. Whereas some of it we can get so fixated on that one thing, and that one thing creates a hindrance or gets in the way of the thing that needs to be done. That I guess the best way of putting it is procrastination, isn't it? We tend to do things, and again, we tend to do things that we enjoy and we like before we do the things that need to be done.
Yeah. Same as business, isn't it? Like there's income generating activities and then there's filing papers.
Yeah.
It's like saying no to the distractions is probably more important, is as important as doing the things that need to be done.
Yeah, and that's for me, awareness really kicked in. It was hearing the word during the CQB training that I did back in, I think it was 2001, 2002. And competent guys that you've rolled with for years are getting failed on courses, and they're getting failed because of awareness.
Wow.
So that they will not be participating or going on to further training and fulfilling a role in that position because of awareness. And awareness, for us in that instance, can get you killed or others killed. And that's very detailed and to the degree and level that most people will never experience. But if you took, say, a Formula One driver or a MotoGP rider, like their level of awareness and their need to be able to process at levels that most people could never fathom. Like imagine sitting in a Formula One car on the starting grid and putting your foot on the loud pedal and turn one. How many people come unstuck? How many good races come unstuck in turn one? Like most people's race, if they can get through turn one, they finish the race. Maybe the car blows up or something happens or something, another. But more often than not, it's the starting grid and getting through turn one. Most of us would stomp on the loud pedal and we wouldn't even realise that there's a break because it would happen so quickly. And it's that, simulation of information and the time condenses itself. And it's like anything, it's learning new skills and all that type of stuff. You need to give space. You got to provide people the opportunity for that skill to take up. And again, the comprehension, the mind gets in the way and it thinks it knows. You go to do it. And the physical body just, what the hell are you doing? And the coach is coaching from their experience and their skill level, and they're trying to articulate and say it in a manner that you understand it. And then you're coaching yourself through your interpretation of that, and you're educating your body. So every day is an education. And then you've got to be the word that just came to mind then is kind. You got to be kind with yourself because how many people, you stuffed it, that inner dialogue. But is that really doing you any benefit in learning or taking on a new skill? You hear people complain about the old dad teaching you to swim, push you in the deep end. You know what I mean? Well, you sink or swim, don't you? But is that the best method? Probably not.
So then, so it sounds like 10 years. Oh, this has been a really insightful convo. So we've spoken about the awareness piece, 10 years in the army. How does then that correlate to you getting on shows like The Biggest Loser?
Well, that was mate, that's just
the wind.
The wind, not just the wind, but just the kind of the perfect storm as such. At the right place at the right time. With the right skill set, maybe with the right look, the right demeanor. All of those things. It just aligned. And you hear many people speak about things in that manner.
Yeah. Was it something you had to apply for, or it kind of came in?
Well, I got a phone call. So some guys I served with in the army. There's a whole long story to it. And the casting agent that was working for the production company had a working relationship with the guys that I knew that I'd served with in the army through another television show. So when that casting agency had been tasked to find someone for this new role that was on the down low, they automatically contacted them. So relationships, yeah. And then they knew me, they served with me. They knew me as a person as such, but also knew that I was leaving the military. And so I kind of maybe had that fit that you painted that picture. So they reached out and I just jumped through the hoops. I had a meeting with the production company. They must have saw that I was, a reasonable fit to then do some kind of screening as such. So the casting agent came and filmed me training a client. They liked that. Then the next stage was train the trainer. So all the trainers that they were looking to potentially have for The Biggest Loser that year, or, to kick off the Australian series of Biggest Loser, was the first White House for in Terry Hills, and we trained one another. And the difference with me is everyone kind of showed up in there. Back in the 2005. It was kind of mid-year 2005, and Les Mills group fitness was kind of the thing within the Fitness First and everything. So they kind of show up in that kind of attire. And I show up in cut-off cam pants, camouflage pants, the sleeves off the thing with army boots on, and I start yelling, screaming at them, making them like drag each other across the. They hadn't seen that before.
Just so different.
And I remember the producer. I remember he had his glasses on. He just had a smile from ear to ear. He was like, "Yeah, there's something here." Lawrence, his name was, I believe, and and then it just. It just progressed from there. And initially, I was very much that guy that had just left the military. I was afforded the luxury of crossing my arms, wearing the sunglasses and not saying much. And I went by the moniker of the Commando. It was like the Stig. Like, who's the Stig? Who's the Commando?
Yeah.
Like, who is this bloke?
Yeah.
He's a one-dimensional, being that points his finger and says, do this, do that, and you do it. But then, with the progression and time, to kind of open that role up a little bit more, and for me to be, rather than say once a week or, here and there, they needed to show a bit more of my character, and I needed to grow as a person in that manner. Otherwise, that one-dimensional being, people just, they get sick of it.
Yeah.
Like, you get over it. Like, same thing, same guy doing the same thing, and who cares? So the Sonny's natural progression. Sonny's come up. Oh, geez, he's got blue eyes. It's all that kind of stuff, and then more pieces to camera, more in the interviews and the like, and because a reality television show is narrated, so you've got to give those interviews to tell the story. And I sit here nowadays being able to speak so much more than I ever could. Like, if there was one thing doing The Biggest Loser or any television work that I didn't like the most, that was the interviews. Yeah, it used to make me really nervous, feel sick. It was like everything that I was trying to say and the manner and the way in which I was trying to say it, it would just never come out like that. It was like it was never good enough. Yeah. And I think you learn, again, with awareness and just being a little more comfortable in yourself and the process and time and doing things repetitively enough, it starts to fall within your wheelhouse. You get better at it. But you've got to want to do it as well. And I also recognized, to have any longevity in the time that TV show ran, I needed to do that. Otherwise, it doesn't take much to fall by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, it's the next person.
Was it a hard transition to go from the army to Biggest Loser?
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of athletes
really
that
hard.
struggle.
Yeah.
Did you lose a bit of identity going across? Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah, look, it was more so, like I used to just allow my physical being and how I did things to be my voice piece as well. Like I used to say very little, and again in the military, it was much the same. Like we would have our discussions. You'd have, your few mates and the like that you're kind of in your that you would have conversations with. But outside of that, there really wasn't a need to converse or be outward. So to do that for a television show and to learn to narrate things and when I was with my team, like 4 or 5 contestants, like that was easy.
Yeah.
Because that's a known quantity as such. And to be able to have those conversations with them, they'd ask questions, about nutrition, about training and the like. And you just give them those simple truths and you just reinforce those things so that you go home at the end of the night, you come back, did you do your half an hour or hour on the treadmill? You'd ask a question. No, I didn't. Why not? You know what I mean? You need to try and get the point across that they've got to be willing to do it for themselves, all that type of stuff. Because if you pointed the finger and demanded those things of people, and as much as you needed to some degree, it was for their own good, you turn your back and walk away. They just give you the middle finger. You know what I mean? Like, look at this idiot. Like, what's he know? Why is he trying? Because you're not connected. There's a disconnect, and they don't feel like that that you're a part of their journey and what it is that they're doing, and they should give their best. Although they're giving their best for themselves, we always feel that it's like the gym and the brand that you're under and the community and there's little slogans and the like that you're giving your best not just for yourself but to that as well. So why do people participate in sports and competitions and do all of those things and use them as a goal, as a stake in the ground and something to work towards? Because if we didn't have those things, what would people do? That's my big question, because I know I'd still do this.
It's like, what's the alternative then, isn't it?
Yeah, because they're exactly right. Like, what is the alternative? Spoke to a mate yesterday that I haven't spoken to for a long time, and he loves getting out down around Mount Kosciuszko and the like, whether it's summer and winter and that, and getting out. He goes, that's when I feel most alive, is when you're up against the elements and you're being challenged, because it requires that level of awareness. It requires that responsibility, and you need to be efficient. You need to be effective. You need to think about safety. All of those things, so that you don't perish. Because if you lack those things, well, you fall by the way real quick, and then you just get consumed. That's what I say. Like, and I go back to Survivor. Or not go back to it, but just to bring that in just quickly. They're smart about how they bring people together. Obviously, there's all the psychological profiling and the like, and recognizing skill sets and the like in the people. But say there's, I can't even remember how. Say there was 12 in a team. You only need 1 or 2 people within that 12 to have the skill sets of knowing how to build a shelter and to forage and do all that type of stuff, and they can keep everyone else alive, but not from this, say the start point. And it's not, in a short period of time, people take on those skills and they can implement those things for themselves, but they soon forget that was taught. If they'd shown up and had to do it for themselves, more often than not, if they hadn't been shown, they wouldn't know left from right. But isn't it, all of a sudden, there's that lack of gratitude for, such and such helped me to Yeah,
Would that shit you in the?
No. Like you think about these things, and I was like thinking to myself, if I ever did Survivor again, I'd steal all the food, and I'd go and make a fire somewhere in the bush and just eat it for myself, and just you'd mess with people, because you can, but that's just not my innate nature. Like the innate nature is to use those skills not just to benefit yourself but others as well. And I think that's a solid role in life, is to recognise how you've been taught and those skills and the like have been passed down. I think back to the younger years and guys in the military. All right, I've embodied those skills and taken them on. How can I then best use those in whatever field or area I'm going into in life to proliferate, to pass them on? And then for those that choose to take them on or take that on for themselves, well, that's for their benefit and gain. Where I'm kind of at now, and I've been toying and working through stuff, with where we are at in life, and just with business and what it is that we do, and as much as there's a business side of things, and you need members, and what's marketing messages and the like. What I've recognised, we are for the few.
We are for the few.
For the few. Now you can interpret that in many ways, but when you hear that, you want to be a part of the few, don't you?
You do, yeah. It's like, well, why?
Yeah, well, see that, but that speaks to you.
Yeah.
But then to somebody else who maybe trains at World Gym, they think they want to train and the like, and they'll go do a few machines. But if you were to get them in here, do you want to be a part of the few? Well, this is what you've got to do to be a part of the few. Oh no, I can't do it. Well, you're not a part of the few. But then I look back to my military time, and it's very much at the pointy end of the triangle. It's for the few. And they make sure of that. They have a selection process. They do all of that. But they've got certain attributes, and you need to be trainable in the manner that they require to be able to fulfill that role. That's for the few.
Holds it up to a standard too,
doesn't it?
Yeah. It's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So if you were to break down, I guess, fitness, health, nutrition, just a simplified version of how do people live a healthy life? So how would you break that down? Because you've lived at the top 1%, and then you've trained people at the bottom 1%.
I don't have it here in front of me, but and it was best coined by the founder of CrossFit, Greg Glassman. I think it's fitness in 100 words. Have you heard of that before? No. You've heard of it, eh, babe? Fitness in 100 words. You can look. You on? Oh, you.
I should look it up.
The best way, is to look it up. But essentially, it talks about doing hard things.
Yeah.
It's about doing things that you don't particularly like. It's about exercising regularly, and play. Play sports. Do things that you enjoy. Be active. And then when it comes to the nutrition side of things, meat, nuts, seeds, and little starch or carbohydrates, and off you go. It's very simple, and to read it, like Fitness in 100 Words, I think it's called. And when you read it, you understand it, you can comprehend it, but try and live by it. It's a bit, it's quite Spartan as such. Like it's to the point. And obviously it's open to your interpretation as well. But if you were to heed that advice and follow that Fitness in 100 Words, you wouldn't go wrong. But the other thing we need to consider nowadays too is our food source, like the food chain sources, like it's so.
Are you grass fed?
Am I grass fed? No, it's so. Is the word diluted? Not diluted, but contaminated.
Yeah.
In a manner.
For the fruit
but unfortunately, a lot of people, through the choices that their parents made or their grandparents made, they pass on the effects. So that epigene, and we're dealing with things from an early age, and environments and contaminants and all that other type of stuff. So sicknesses and ailments and things like that can be quite an uphill battle for people. And, I say fitness in 100 words. If someone was in need of something and they were to follow that, it actually could be detrimental. We've got to be smart in our application, because again, back to the camps, and I would have people ask those questions about nutrition, and I would say certain things, very much, because in the early days with CrossFit, they used to push the zone diet, and essentially it's breaking your macronutrients down into your protein, your carbs, and your fats, and a ratio. And even when I had the online program, the ratio was 40-40-20. 40 protein, 40 fats, 20 carbohydrates. That's even the prescription I gave.
20 carbohydrates?
Yeah. Whereas I think...
even for CrossFit?
And well, it's a blend, yeah. And then you start to adjust those variables based in the individuality of people. And obviously there's things that when you start to go deeper into things, obviously there's a lot more changes that probably need to happen. But people would ask me those questions. I'd give that prescription and they say, oh, but I'm on this medication, I'm on that. Mate, I didn't have a clue about what half those medications were. And you'd have to almost, with a bit of a disclaimer, because you ask people to eat more vegetables and stuff like that, but the medication they're eating, if they eat more green leafy vegetables, it can counter a certain medication, and it can actually make things worse. See, just putting it out there on the table and just expecting people to blindly follow something like that when they've got other things going on can be a recipe for disaster. So there was no chat GPT back then, was it? No. And I think, things like that can be taken a little too literal too nowadays, because it gives you what you want.
That kind of confirmation bias a lot too, doesn't it?
Exactly. So you've just got to weigh that up. But then again, awareness.
Yeah. Everything back to awareness, isn't it?
I know, it almost seems a bit gimmicky and
would you have people have their shirts off every day for the Biggest Losers to have awareness of self?
Shirts off?
Yeah, have awareness around...
I think, back to that, it's... what I used to say to the contestants is, you need to draw a line in the sand. You're either in or you're out, and understand they want it to be in, but you kind of put that on the table. And all right, you've made that choice to be in. What you also need to do is acceptance, or forgiveness and acceptance of who you are as a person at this point and moment in time. You've done X, Y, and Z, and that's gotten you to here. But if you keep beating yourself up for all that, you can't change that. All that stuff's that's done. But what you can do is work on the change now, and helping them to embrace that and take those small steps. Like I said, the bearings on a compass, and live by that each day. You will become a different person. But that's the hardest thing to do. And a lot of the time, that resistance is that old self kicking in and being very self-critical and almost derogatory. Like it's that constant voice in your head or in your ear, like pulling you down and not waning on your confidence. And when you can get out of your own way and recognize I'm doing the best, not have a fight with that inner dialogue, but have a conversation with it, that very self-critical side. So back to your question about shirts off, what that does is it makes things so much more present and the stark reality of it. Because I think to some degree, we all do, at times, we live in a state of delusion.
Bloody oath, mate.
And how, when you come out of it, how much of a slap in the face it is.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't even have an answer why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's another problem too. You start searching for the certain and it bogs you down. It's like, weights on your legs, but you just got to keep moving, towards the sunlight.
It is, isn't it? And it's easy to become forgetful of what you're doing. Sometimes you just take one step off course, and all of us, like you talked about, that 1 degree of separation, all of a sudden you look back and you're like, where am I?
I saw that, with with doing the gym and the business side of things and programming and the like. And there was periods of time where I wouldn't eat until midday, and I actually started getting sick. Like I ended up, there was a couple of times where, it was, you wonder how you get there and why your training is suffering and all that other type of stuff. So I just wasn't taking in enough nutrients. And not that I was training hard and doing all that, but you're just using so much mental energy and giving so much of yourself to try and create and grow something that you almost forget about yourself. And it's good having someone in your corner to remind you of those things or to encourage that awareness of another way of doing things. And it helps to kind of right the ship in that manner. And that's something that I'm conscious to this day of and do all the time now. Like it's, having breakfast, and more often than not, Harika's running around with the kids and doing stuff in the morning. So I'll ask her, I'm making myself breakfast,
What's
you want
brekkie?
a couple of eggs? What's brekkie?
Steak and eggs.
The go-to for me is I got this mad frying pan, bit of butter in the frying pan, 4 eggs. I might have, if there's a bit of toast, some sourdough or the like. If not, no carbs in that kind of side of things. Like a half. Say like you take a half an avocado, probably 3/4 that, and then the other quarter Harika will have. So you 4 eggs, half an avocado, and then a couple of pieces of sourdough, or in place of the bread and the like, I might have a banana and a couple of dates, and the like. But just eating more consistently. And I think back to when I was, let's go, 10, 20 years, and I was doing that when I talk about the zone diet, like being more diligent and focused and attuned to making sure I'm taking those nutrients in. And I was doing that because, I was more competitive and getting into CrossFit in that manner and wanting to kind of put my stamp on it in that manner. So you put that work in, but then when the nutrition didn't align so much, you don't think of it how it helps to fuel you for business and all that. And you get, like I look at my dad, that I grew up with, like he more often than not wouldn't eat. The only meal he'd eat in the day was dinner. You hear a lot of people talk about, old school, but they also grew up to in a time of less.
Yeah.
And it was the
access, was it?
But not just that, but the accessibility to food. A lot of post-war and the like, and they would conserve things and they wouldn't eat as much. Whereas now, man, we can turn in every direction and order it on our phone and, have things in a heartbeat. And things tend to be in excess, but more of the things that we probably, should be saying no to.
Yeah. Yeah, not the whole foods eating the Macca's on the way rather than, like you said, the eggs. I think, especially now with social media, you hear things like fasting, 1 meal a day, and I think that can be a lot of people. From my experience, nutrients is so important to fuel your, like, not just your physical side, but the mental and business side.
I get all of those things, and I understand them to some degree, and I've practiced those again. So it's not just an idea in my head, but why? I think more often than not, like where I think
makes you skinny.
Yeah, I think it definitely can have a net negative effect on things for people. Like especially the pace of life nowadays. Like we don't tend to roam around and consider and contemplate and just be with ourselves in a manner like we used to. Whereas there's those constant distractions, or we can pick up our phone and kind of get that gratification, in that manner. Whereas a lot of those things like fasting, like were tools to elicit certain responses and the like, but then you weren't expected to go hard for 8 hours after it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, you could sit by out in the bush and stuff.
Yeah,
not have to,
like if I jumped in the 4-wheel drive and I had some water and some food, and you're going out in the bush and you weren't as physically active and the like, and you're getting to sit around a bit, like, of course you don't need as much. And it's actually probably good for your body.
Yeah.
But if you're expecting your body to go for 10 to 12 hours in a day and you're up against it and you got business meetings and decisions that need to be made and you've got to be on it, man, fast ain't going to help you.
Yeah, I agree. So, mate, this has been great. If I go back to The Biggest Loser, just to finish up that chapter, what are the biggest lessons you learned in that process, and what happened to the show?
Can I answer that first? What happened to the show? Don't know. I think it was of the times. And as we became more, as humans became more aware and conscious of mental health, we recognised that it wasn't just laziness and the like things like obesity and morbid obesity and the like people are struggling. Like there's trauma, there's things that tended to happen at an earlier age that people haven't been able to come to terms with or deal with. And it's a mechanism, it's a tool to help soothe and to comfort. It's not to say that for everyone that's been the course of action, but you see that a lot for people. But the recognition of people's mental health has probably been the biggest thing that's come out of the past 15 to 20 years. And the last season that I filmed was 2015, so that was 11 years ago.
Yeah, right.
If you were to think about the show, would it fit with today's current climate and our understanding of ourselves as human beings? Probably not. It irritated. Well, it was very much, a lot of people were on the fence, one way or the other with it. But what it did do was, it was so poignant at the time that it created debate and it got people thinking and asking questions around a whole host of different things, which I think is only but a benefit for all of us.
Did many of the people on the show after the fact put on the weight?
It's hard to say. If you were to take a wild stab at it, you'd go 50-50. It's not that I talk regularly, but I'll get messages from people that were on the show with me over the years. I put a picture up, I think just as a story a few weeks ago, and the young guy that was in the picture goes, "That was the turning point for me." There you go. Enough said.
Yeah.
Like it was enough of kicking the pants. We were out in Alice Springs. It was freaking hot. The sand was like, however, and I was telling him to run to the top of the hill, and he got a bit upset with me, and he goes, I think he was like, "You effing do it," and he goes, "You were up the top of the hill before I even finished the sentence." And he goes,
you went up and actually.
Oh, mate, I used to like,
shut your mouth, I'll show you how it's done.
Yeah. And he was young. And Joe Medway. And, there's many others that, from time to time will message or they'll reach out in some manner. But, positive experiences all around. But you're asking the lessons from that. Yeah, you got to be your own self, your own source of encouragement. So many people wait and rely on others to be that uplift, to be, that Tigger in the room, and you've got to encourage it of yourself. And what does that take or require, or what are the things that you can move towards that you enjoy, or will help you to achieve that? It could be a myriad of things. Like I'm not going to start listing them, but you've got to be your own source of encouragement, because otherwise, as we were talking, there will come a point when you no longer have the choice, and you no longer are the one making the decisions. So whilst you have the ability to make the choice and the decisions, get after it. And I'm not saying it has to be 100% every day. But, if you split that 100% in half, what does that look like? And then add 20%. Like I say with the workouts here, if you can hit a workout at about 70, 80% on a regular basis, you can't go wrong. You just got to do it consistently. And then you've got to be able to manage all the other little things. Like, all right, what helps create that perfect environment for me to be able to execute at that? My sleep, my nutrition, my level of preparedness. I think that's a big factor that more often than not isn't discussed, not enough, but in a manner that it makes sense. Because again, social media, win the day, get up at 3. It's gotten earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
It used to be 5 a.m. and like you were a rock star. Then you got all these business heads saying how they get up at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, ice bath, sauna.
And then I see people posting 2:30, 3 o'clock now. It's like, are you serious? Like, when do you go to bed?
Yeah.
It's like, you're so full of shit. Like,
and that's not sustainable.
Hey, no, it's not.
Nah.
And then do a full day of work. Nah, man, you're sleeping on the job.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. And so when I'm having a laugh about that, but when I mean preparedness, like, to be able to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, man, you're midday the day before you're executing. You know what I mean? Otherwise,
having dinner early, getting stuff set up.
Yeah, like there's all of those. So do I get to watch a Netflix show tonight? Do I stay out? You know what I mean? Like, come to the gym. What's wrong? I didn't go to bed till midnight. Man, you've had 4 hours sleep. No wonder. You do that more often than not, but that's what people do. We want to fulfill all these other little things that, again, don't often benefit us, and then we wonder why we can't do the things that do.
Busy with the distractions, isn't it?
Yeah.
And something that from my position, I would say that I'm someone that's more not as lazy, but will just, like you, that just go. And what I've had to pull back on sometimes is having too many balls in the air. You can't do everything well to a high standard. You've got to focus on a few things well.
Yeah, and then go after that.
It's very easy to just the next thing and the more success you get, the more opportunities come, and then the more it's just all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck? I started here and now I'm here, and it's just like, you're not doing this well. The basics. It comes out. What's the basics? Doing the basics, isn't it?
Yeah, and then having others in your corner, or again, I guess being open enough to bringing people into the fold that can manage those things, so that that's their baby, and I guess what you've done with business and being able to do this. Like, it's otherwise you're spinning too many plates, and it wears you down. Like, it becomes a grind. And then, are things really enjoyable, or is it the grind that you enjoy?
Yeah.
Because I heard a guy talking about, I was listening to a guy talk about it the other day about, fulfillment and success and things like just being able to have something like this and dial in and just keep dialing in and refining and refining and refining. Isn't that enough? Does it need to be 10 of these? No. Does that float your boat? Like, it's, I love four-wheel drives and cars and all that type of stuff. And, there's mate, that thing's sitting out there, people ogle over it and this and that. It's the biggest pain in my ass. It's great. It looks good. But again, see, it looks good. You put a picture on social media, look, it's great. There's always something that needs to be done. And just the size of it and the wheels, there's bushes here and that. You go forward driving, you do stuff, you're in the elements, it's harsh, things start to rust here, that needs to be, taken back, it needs to be painted. Like, it's never ending. You could be a full-time job. And people who love it that much, that's what their jobs are.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But then they're doing it so much, is the love still there?
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
It's like it's like all of it. And that's what I've asked myself, even about this. If people say, what else would you do? I honestly have never sat and contemplated that enough, because as much as this can be a grind, there's also, a drive to do it.
Yeah. And
to refine things down, and to recognise that refining process doesn't happen in a day or a week or a year. Like, and we're in July. you know, these things that I was contemplating at the end of last year still haven't come to fruition. Like, but we're in July. And then that makes me think about my army time. And I was only in there for like, you know, a decade. And I think about mates that have been there for 30 years. How good at their craft. How good they must be at their craft. How dialed in. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's where it's at for us as humans, but that's my take on
really getting
things.
deep on one thing and getting I don't know if you can ever achieve mastery, but getting to that real depth of something.
What do they call it? There's a word in gymnastics that they use, but there's also an ancient Greek word. Is it arete?
There's just so much power in it, isn't it? And I think that's why when you're growing up, sometimes you're doing things you don't like to do, but building that consistency, you know, it's just...
I think that's the big missing piece for a lot of kids nowadays, and making the choice, like, to do those challenging things and to step into it. And we have a lot of like young teenagers who come and train with us and the like, and they do that because their parents train with us. So it's a bit of a known quantity, and they again, we look up to our parents and the like, and we see them doing things, so we do something similar. But number one, at least they cut their teeth in the manner of they feel comfortable stepping into an environment like this. Because even to this day, we still meet many adults who've never done anything physical their entire life, and just getting them across the line. It's like, we got your back. That's why we exist. We're here for you. You know what I mean? We'll teach you. You know, you don't have to break yourself and go at 1,000 miles an hour and all that other type of stuff. Like, you know, we'll kind of hold your hand, you know, and along the way. But a lot of apprehension. But when kids, again, they cut their teeth and they understand the kind of the framework and how it works for them, whether it's here or anywhere else. You know, as they get older, they may move away from it for a period of time, but more often than not, they'll come back to it.
And then they've at least got that base, that foundation,
yeah,
isn't it?
100%. Whether they play sport or not.
Yeah.
And, you know, look at, you know, the methodology that we love is that CrossFit methodology in that manner. And, you know, there's a lot of people that compete in that CrossFit space who maybe when they were younger were good at gymnastics, but as they got a bit older in the teen years, they grew too tall, or they were just too heavy set for it. But, you know, they've still got a good skill base, enough for the gymnastics in CrossFit, but they're great at lifting, you know, and they combine it all together. Or, you know, they've got a great cardio base, they need to just bring that lifting, you know, like it's got something for everybody.
Yes, I reckon CrossFit's my favourite. Like, and you're not just training by yourself, you've got that community, you can do it individually where each set and rep you kind of, but it's that, and then having that program that I like that. You just come, you don't have to worry about what work it is, you just...
Yeah, well, you don't.
I don't.
We do.
It's great.
Hey, did you want to bring Harika in at all?
Yeah, do you want to bring her in? Should we transition out of The Biggest Loser to now this and bring Harika in? Is she cool?
Yeah, did you want to come in, babe?
But let's reel it back into the introduction of Harika. So we'll wrap up The Biggest Loser. So you finished, when did 2015 you finished up?
So, yeah, and so 2015 was the last season I did with the Avale family, so a Samoan family.
Nice.
And then from there, you know, there was no discussion. There wasn't, it just, I think they tried to do another season afterwards, and it didn't work out for them. And then
where did you go from there? What to then get the gym?
No, so I had Get Commando Fit as an online program at that point in time. So we started that in 2013.
Okay,
and then that ran through to like 2017, 2018. So that was like anything that's online, like the nature of the beast, you know, content, you know, constantly filming, you know, doing things like getting around, like doing media type stuff. But then there was also a lot of corporate work, and you know, running the camps that I was running and the like. And it wasn't until COVID that it really put, you know, again, for a lot of people, put the brakes on things. And then that was about the time that I met lovely Harika, and again, we were both a bit.
How'd you meet?
How'd we meet? Actually, we met
At a
in,
CrossFit game or what?
No.
No, actually, I hadn't done CrossFit.
Had you heard of it though?
Oh, really?
Of course, yeah, but I'd never done it. No. So
Yeah.
I didn't know enough about it, and I was in F45 at the time,
That's right.
and I did more les meals, Zumba, like that's what I did years and years prior to F45.
Yeah, and then,
That's all there was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in CrossFit, I was like, oh, I don't know. It's a bit hard. I wish I started
Come closer.
Yeah, come
15,
closer to the mic.
15, 20 years ago would have been nice. But I wish I had started a lot earlier. Gosh.
But this is back to what I was saying before about that, for people and the
Knowledge
I
of
wish
it.
I'd done. Yeah. And
There wasn't enough of it. There's so much more. It's so much more in your face now.
accessible. Yeah.
But it wasn't like that then. It was probably more for the hard hitters, and I didn't know if I was in that level at that time.
But I was close to 30 at the time when CrossFit really started to take hold, and so I'd done a lot with exercise and fitness and playing around with different things. So you kind of get a feel for stuff. So when something different presents itself and you've been doing X for a period of time and you give that a go and you've got a reference to weigh that against, and you're like, wow, this is game changing. Yeah. Whereas a lot of youngsters who haven't really done much, there's usually a lot more apprehension. They're not going to try something that isn't mainstream until it becomes like a norm.
Yeah.
And now you get those outliers who give it a crack, and they tended to be in the CrossFit world people that were older, later 20s, 30s, 40s. They kind of paved the way in those earlier days. Now you got youngsters doing it only because it's more mainstream.
And encouraged.
And it's been encouraged, and people can communicate it in a manner that the methodology is freaking amazing. But yeah, that's something that we've done for years, although we're not directly affiliated with CrossFit in what we're doing here at the moment. For Harika and her introduction to it and kind of falling in love with it, and born out of, is the word necessity, like to put food on the table and pay the bills. We would load up my old four-wheel drive with dumbbells and the like in the morning and go down to the park, and she put the word out to people, through lockdown, and because people still wanted to train, and where we could train and it was permitted, we trained, and we did that on a weekend, a Saturday and Sunday, and then that Saturday and Sunday became a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then it became every damn day. And then
In the park.
Yeah, in the park, in the freezing cold, in the dark,
And
in
it
the
was
wet.
hot. When it was hot, like 40 degrees.
And then you're messaging people, encouraging
Doing
them
an
to come
unwrap
to
in
train.
40 degrees, eh?
Yeah. Oh.
And when it was
Too.
cold, it was like -2. We'd be shivering trying to get all the equipment off the truck, and then you got to load it back on the truck, and then
Yeah, so we
drive and come back. And
So then going from being in a park and loading and unloading every day into this great space, it was a 180, and you're making the most of it, in that manner, and growing the gym, because of like business and fixed costs and all those other types of things, but also being able to provide a sound program and build a community that people wanted to be a part of and come back to every day. I think is the end game as such. But now that takes a lot of work, time and effort. But what else would you be doing, or what else would we be doing? We probably think of a million other things, but at the same time, like, it's when you can stop and just consider those things and the effort that you put in and the time, like well, I don't know, like the word that came to mind was proud, but I just think it's you just take a deep breath and just go, man, this is cool. Yeah.
we also see from the members and how they change and they grow and what they couldn't do to what they can do now, and all that positive feedback from just
Yeah, I think, well, on
being
that,
part of their journey.
is reminding them too, because people lose sight of where they've come from. You know, because we become this newfound being and our capability, and how that influences and changes, you know, life, you know, as an individual, but then, you know, maybe collectively within a family unit, or you know, in your work environment, and just to remind them, so because humans are very good at getting down on ourselves and losing sight of just how far we've come. You know, whether you be older or, you know, younger as well.
So how long total the gym now? Since 2020? So when did you have this?
We started in here in 2021, so it's 5 years. The end of this year is 5 years.
Congrats. It's awesome.
And you were in the
Yeah.
park for like a year and a half prior to that.
Yeah. So since 2020.
Can I ask you, Harika, what's it like working with the Commando and living with him? What's some like under the table insights you got for us?
Well, it depends. I mean, look, he's great in the sense that we work very well together. Like, we just feed off each other. I don't need to ask him to do even just the basic stuff. Like, I'll come in and he's doing the dishes and I'm like, it's okay, we've got other stuff. He's like, that's all right, I'm just going to do this and fix it up. Like, we pick up after each other without having to even be reminded to do it, because we know what it takes to have the day run smoothly, and, you know, and because we've got to go from one spot to another, and rushing back and forward. So making sure that we just look out. I think we've learnt to really look out for each other in that sense. Other than that, I mean, look, in the beginning it was challenging because he was different, you know, and I'm different. I'm probably to what he's used to, as well. I'm quite loud and passionate, which people can take as a bit aggressive. I'm very direct. You get what you see with me. I don't really filter much. So that can be a lot for some. And he was a lot calmer. And when I'd come at him with things, he'd just, like, I could just see him shutting down and not being able to understand how I was responding to things. But I think you've learnt that it's just the way I am, and then I get over it. And it's not an attack on anyone or anything. It's just me expressing how I feel. But I think that's also come out in you a little bit more too, where you stand up more for yourself.
Yeah, being probably a bit more assertive in that manner. And I think we all, you know, some people are probably more that way than they need to be, but I think the majority of people too. I think that's liberating as well. But that's back to that piece I was talking about before with communication. You know, what is it that you're hearing, but also, you know, how you voice that, or the manner and the way in which you do it. And you don't always have to, you know, wait until you're about to blow your top before you say something. It's and that's what I used
taught me to calm down a bit too, the way you are. I'm not as full on, if you can believe.
Yeah.
I used to be worse. So.
Yeah, but I think the gym and having the member base, but then, you know, for us as well, you know, enjoying the training and doing all of that, like and training together. And we just had that competition the other weekend, which, you know, you think, weekend, and why would you do that? And then you think, so, like, what
else am I going to do?
Like, I don't drink much. I don't frequent a pub or do any of that. I'm not, you know, the biggest sport watcher, so I don't sit on the lounge and just sit in front of the television. And I could be out in the bush, full driving and just being in nature. Fantastic. You know, outside of that, you know, we live and breathe this stuff, and whilst I still can be physical in that manner, why not put yourself up against it? Yeah, and just have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Nothing better than beating people. Beating people younger than you. That's the biggest win for me. But no. But it's also what I love, what we love. It gives me purpose. And you know what? And I lead by example for my kids. Like, when my kids are there cheering me on and doing vlogs for me, you know, videoing it all for us, and, you know, and so that's my mum, you know, like that is worth everything. You know, I can't put a price on that. And I want to make them proud in everything I do. So for me, if it means putting myself out there and trying to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, then so be it. Because I don't want them to ever feel that they can't do anything. You know, they can't be they can be anything that they want as long as they apply themselves. And they've got to put the work in. And if they, I'm sure they see that with us.
Yeah.
And the hours and stuff. And
I think that's the biggest lesson, is putting the work in, but also think, and my hope, I would say, for my kids, you know, and even for Harika's kids, is for them to put the work in, but to put the work in when you're young, but the work in a manner that you set yourself up. Like, and I think everybody can do that. It wasn't maybe I think my parents didn't maybe understand that as well when we were younger, and relay the importance of that and drill that home. But you know, when you're a bit older and you start to recognise that your physical being isn't what it used to be, and you still got to pay the bills, and then is there, when I can't do what I'm doing and I'm older, do I have enough of a financial footprint to be able to support myself? And that's probably one of the biggest stresses. And I know for majority of people, the financial stress is probably one of the biggest things. But I can tell you, get good at your craft, do that well, and when you're young, put the work in to build that, and be mindful of being distracted away from doing that, and set yourself up in that manner. And then when you go, man, like, life's good. Yeah, and that's why I say to them, don't shackle yourself to so many responsibilities like we were talking about before, that you're spinning plates all the time and bouncing around, and you got no time for anything. Like, build that, create that foundation and that framework like you would a house, and then live in the damn thing. Yeah.
It's easy to build it and want to go to the next place. Isn't it?
Yeah, constantly just. But I think that's
busy.
But again, it's learned behaviour, isn't it?
Yeah.
From those that come before you, and what our parents taught us was hard-ass work. Like, sometimes the work, there isn't a need for it in that manner. It can be done in a smarter way, but that's to a degree all we know. And like, you can have awareness of that, as we've spoken a lot about today. But just because you have that awareness and you can recognise things doesn't mean it just changes. You gotta then put the work in on top of the work that's already, because it doesn't. The method, you know, and the means and the like, it's still got to be done.
Yeah, you
can't
can't
you've
just
created it. It's like a
meditating.
magic.
Yeah, it's you know, like when you drink too much and you got a hangover, and it's like, when's this hangover gonna go away? It'll go away when it's ready for it to go away.
Yeah.
Other than that, you've got to endure it and deal with it. And that's the same as all the other nonsense that we that we get ourselves, you know, into. But that's, I think, for the kids, isn't it? It's helping show them that, you know, yes, hard work and the like, and to be diligent and smart and be aware of those things, and to
but it's also committing to something and
but embrace
delivering
life.
it, you know, and just being disciplined enough, following through. Everybody wants to change, or they want to look a certain way or do a certain. But no, if you don't put the work in, it's not going to happen.
Embrace the process.
I mean, you know, there's only so much injections that they can do.
That's it, eh?
Like, come on.
Peptides.
Far out.
Or what's all that other stuff nowadays?
Yeah, it's getting pretty big.
It is, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You know,
All the
it's
diet
You should see on the Gold Coast now, it's fucking everywhere.
Really?
It's bad, eh? Every gym is like, everybody, it's like, who's not on peptides is the outsider.
yeah, crazy. But see, again, it's like the
it's
eastern
crazy.
suburbs of Sydney, and then you got the Gold Coast, and you got all like those
But
areas.
they believe that it's going to work. Like, just inject that and you'll be right. Do they even research what's in it?
I don't
What
think
it is?
I think because now it's everybody's on it. It's like you just
They just do
you
it.
just do it.
and deal with the consequences
later. Yeah.
It's just quick fix.
Quick fix. Yeah, it's
God, don't worry
Nothing
about
good
working
happens
hard.
fast.
Just
No.
But this
About
has been a great chat. I think, how long have we spoken for now?
Well, it's 1 o'clock. 2 hours. They're
Are you
done.
hungry?
They want their lunch. They want lunch.
I'd love to wrap it up by saying, just unpack, what would be your biggest life lessons and takeaways that you could share to the younger generation that are maybe 20 years behind you guys
Work hard.
about life and success or passion or discipline or whatever comes to mind.
Be a good person.
Yeah, and go after the things that you love, and be mindful of being talked out of things and talked into things. If there's something and the things that you gravitate towards, like, go after it.
Surround yourself with people that that have the same goals or ideals as you, or not just the motivation, but the drive, the values. Like, that's so important. You've got to be around those people that are going to just lift you up or push you in the right direction, or just know that you've got someone that'll back you. Like, just that it's okay to give it a go, and if you fail, well, it's all right. At least you tried. What are you going to do? Live your life wondering?
And anyways, and again, they spend so much time admiring others it might be a perception doing well, when you too could be there. Like, champion yourself, like, get beside, and if you not so much struggle with that, but you need but we all need a community behind us in that manner, or the family or the like, and they might not be immediate or blood family members, but get those people behind you that or in your fold that can help you to achieve the things that you want to achieve.
And just start. Get to it.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Whatever,
Starts with the chin up, doesn't it? Then you do it.
Well, you came in straight away, jumped straight onto the bar to do a muscle up.
Straight in.
No warm up, no nothing.
I had to chicken wing it.
Chicken wing.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different things, but you've got to believe in yourself, and it's some people just, I think, tend to naturally have that about them a little more than others. But I think by, as Harika said, starting and gaining the skill and the understanding and the competence will build that confidence, and you'll start to figure it out. And again, just be mindful of distractions.
And do things that make you happy. Like, whatever that is. If it's fitness, then do more of that. You feel better within yourself, you're going to be a better human to other people. And you're going to be happier, I don't ever walk out of here angry, like, after I've trained. I'm happy, I'm pumped,
Yeah, and thinking, it's funny seeing at this table now, doing this podcast with you, and how this all started. You actually called me one day.
Do you remember that?
You called me about buying a house or renting a house or something, and I convinced you to come to the gym.
Oh, is that how it came
Yes.
across?
I called him about property,
He was ringing about properties or something, and I said, mate, I'm in no place to buy a place.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, this and that. And then he goes, are you the commander? I was like, yeah, man. I said, got a gym here. And he goes, I'll come down and chat. And you came with that mate on a Saturday.
Yeah.
But my point to all of that, and having a laugh about that, is, and it's not something that I've overly discussed, but I was saying about with youngsters before and the financial side of things, I've never really concerned or just thought about my financial well-being until probably the past 5 years the most, since we've had this gym. And the eye-opener has been running the business in this manner and how much money it costs.
And not having the backing to
but
start.
but not just that. Because money used to scare me. Like, I was making money and the like, TV, all that type of stuff. It was great, and it was good while the tap was running. But when the tap was turned off, and pretty much had nothing, and then we had to create something from nothing, how much more, well, you learn to, I think it's a respect. And I don't think I ever lacked a respect, but I was scared of it and what it was and could be. And by putting that time and effort and attention into it, and it's like an employee, like it can really work for you. And the other thing is, again, I relied on my physical being and prowess for so many years. You don't realise how good you've got it until you don't. And as I feel it start to slip away, because it is, as much as I don't maybe like to admit that, and that's why I do what I do, maybe I'm just hanging on. But going about putting the work in to have that financial well-being is probably, because it ties in with what we do, well-being, but security in that manner has been something that I put a lot of time and effort into. And it's, it's, how do I say it? Like it's, because it doesn't like scare me like it used to in that manner. And I can,
process it better.
Well, not just processes, but well, when you feel secure, you feel sound, you feel like you were saying about a work, like a level of content,
like you're grounded and
yeah. But there's a vulnerability that I've kind of expressed today that I haven't really in anything else. But that's only because it's been something that's been of the past 5 years. With COVID and all that other type of stuff, and I'm 50 learning that lesson. Whereas I know others who've maybe had their parents and others around them, helping them to understand the importance of that from a much earlier age. Kudos to them. Like, get after it, but don't just do that for yourself. Like, once you've got that figured out for yourself, help others.
Pay it forward.
Because there's so many people out there that are struggling. And if they just put a little bit of effort in and like, they could be in a much better place. And I guarantee that they'd see the sun shining. It wouldn't be dark and gloomy every day. Because some people, the sun maybe, it's a beautiful day, but they don't see it. Because they feel like the world's closing in on them, yeah? And I think that's back to the Biggest Loser stuff. Anyway, see how I start thinking all this other type of stuff.
It's good.
It's true, like,
close at that point. You were onto something real good.
No, well, I was like that dark and gloomy. Like, I can only imagine through my life experience and things I've done at times where, there's the ups and there's the downs of things, how deep a hole people dig themselves in. To the point they're so deep in the hole that they don't see that the light's shining outside. Yeah, and there is a way that you've got to put the work in.
You just got to keep fighting. Never give up,
mate. Never give up.
Quit.
Never give up.
Oh, there you go. And there you go.
About it.
Get Commando Fit with Commando
mate.
Steve. So it's just in case people want to get interested in learn more about CrossFit in the gym. Whereabouts you guys based? How can they connect?
So where we currently are is in Rouse Hill. Obviously, we've got our social media with Get Commando Fit. We've got the Commando Steve website and Instagram. We've got the Get Commando Fit Instagram, Harika Eris Instagram. But yeah, the bricks and mortar and the gym itself, we're in Rouse Hill. What else is there to add to that?
Well, we can go out to them depending on the groups and all that sort of stuff.
Are you still doing corporate stuff?
Yeah, we still do a bit of corporate stuff every now and then, and schools, yeah. And at one point we'd have a school coming in here every week.
Oh wow!
But again, that you got to manage your time, and a lot of those things can detract. And is it? You want to help as many people as you can, but then sometimes is it financially viable? Like, is it pulling that time and effort away from the things that need it the most? And you just got to weigh that up. Yes. What are you laughing at? thinking a million other things to say. These two want to go and have something to eat, mate.
Poor bastards. No, it's been great to like sit down and have a chat and just see the conversation go here, there, everywhere.
Oh, mate, I could chat. I could keep chatting.
I reckon we'd have to probably do a part 2.
He just goes, someone might say, oh, that's a nice top. And then he'll go, you know, when I was up at the mountain and I was sliding down and then done it. And I'm like, what? Like, bring it back in. Yeah, that top's really nice. I have to bring that conversation back to you, back to that other person. Folks. It's so funny.
On Survivor, that's Matty Rogers.
You're a lot better and so much better.
Used to tease me, used to call me Scuba Steve. He goes, all right, everyone, bell helmets on. We're going deep with Scuba Steve. Goes, what? There you go. What he used to say, what philosophy have you got for us this morning, Steve? I just randomly, like,
something comes.
Philosophical quote or something would come to mind and I'd have to say it.
All right, just to wrap us up, give us one of your best philosophical quotes.
Oh my God.
What's the first thing that came to mind?
I haven't even thought of anything yet. Oh, you've got me now, mate. You got me quiet.
If you had to say something, what's the first thing that comes to mind? A saying of yours.
No excuses.
No excuses. There you go.
Are they buttons?
Out of your eyes.
Are they buttons? What else do you say about the ears? Are they glued on?
No, they're not painted on.
They paint it on? When they don't listen? You can't see them. Like, oh, no.
Oh, you got me on the... Now, see, that's going to be in my head for the rest of the day. I'm going to message you like some philosophical quote that actually... Because the thing is, I don't want to just say anything because, you know, things just come to mind. But, like it I don't know, you got to feel it. Like, it's got to carry some weight. But that's where I even expressed before for the few as such. Because it's like, man, it's so true. I got a mate. Anyway, see, with the Mill gym, and he has a bit of a selection process for his gym. Like you've got to
meet
pass
the standard.
a certain standard to be a member of the gym. And I always used to say it was like, how can you have a viable business when that? Like, because again, it's only a small percentage. But I think he was in a place where he could, you know, and to be in that place, you know, to be able to express yourself in a manner that best fits with you, that's life as well, isn't it? Because so many people have to alter themselves and do things in a manner that isn't particularly them to see their next paycheck or to, you know, do all that. Man, how many movies are made about that stuff? But anyway, all right.
Mate, thanks so much. We'll have to do a part 2 down the track because I'm sure there's another rabbit hole we can go down. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another Both Sides podcast. Just want to say a big thank you for the support up until now. If you've got value from the episode, could you please go like and follow us on the social platforms, for example, Spotify and YouTube, as that will help us continue to get better quality guests. Bye for now.